About a month ago, Electric Airship again reached out to me asking if I wanted to check out another one of their games. I'm not going to turn down free stuff, so of course I said yes. But I did glance at what they were offering, a retro-styled RPG named Axe Cop. I have never heard of Axe Cop before, but apparently it was a big webcomic that was written by a kid who was 5 at the time, while an older family member illustrated it. This sounded very intriguing on its own, but the game looked fantastic, so I couldn't wait to get started on it. So here's my official apology to Electric Airship for getting this review out far later than I intended. Due to other games I had been playing at the time, it kept getting pushed back further and further, and I regret it, as this game was immensely entertaining for a slew of reasons. So yeah, Axe Cop, Defender of the World. The story goes that he thought guns just weren't good enough, but axes were, so he's now Axe Cop. Alongside a whole menagerie of partners, Axe Cop attempts to thwart the varied supervillains that he comes across. Each one has its own personality, and here's where you immediately see where a kid wrote the series. Some of the enemies and villains are a bit out there. You have Evil Santa, who is a guitarist in a rock band that uses a magical book to keep Axe Cop away. You have the Unibaby, a baby with a unicorn on its head that strikes a massive robot and causes it to crash into the city, nearly destroying it in the process. There's Dr. Stinky Pants, a guy who's making candy canes in the flavor of Axe Cop's weakness. And of course there's Dr. Doo-Doo, a massive turd that inhabits a robot in the shape of a baby's face. Yeah, this game is a bit out there. And that's part of the charm. The conversations that you'll encounter will make you laugh out loud. Axe Cop is defiant to the end, constantly stating that he will chop off the heads of all the bad guys. The problem is that he lost the list of bad guys, so he doesn't know who is good and who is evil, causing him to simply detain the enemies in a jail cell until he can reassemble the list. But as he tries to figure out who is good and who is bad, he will speak with other characters who may or may not like his method of law enforcement. Without spoiling too much, as this game just needs to be experienced on your own to fully enjoy the humor, the story is just flat out wacky. So how does the game play? Axe Cop is a fairly standard turn-based RPG. Axe Cop will run around the environment, and touching the roaming enemies will start a combat encounter. You have your standard options: attack, skills, and items. From what I can tell, you cannot flee from battles, but it's not like you'd ever really need to. Skills will use MP, and interestingly, doing your standard attacks will replenish 5 MP per strike, giving you an easy but slow way to recharge your MP without using items. Speaking of charging, this is also an option. By selecting this, the character will idle for 2 turns, and regain 25 MP at the end of the second turn. It's not a bad idea at first, but about a third of the way into the game, you earn so many items that regain MP that I haven't used it since. It's a great option if you are stingy, or just running out of healing items. The enemies themselves will typically fall after just a few strikes, but Axe Cop and pals each have different strengths and weaknesses. Axe Cop is the powerhouse, jack of all trades. Ralph Wrinkles, the doggo, has a very weak power rating, but his healing eye lasers are invaluable. And yeah, you heard that right. Healing eye lasers. Flute Cop is the defensive player at first, but he eventually changes forms a few times to become Dinosaur Cop and Ghost Cop, of which the latter has a fantastic, although costly, full party heal ability. And you'll be healing a lot because these battles, although not particularly difficult, will test Axe Cop. Enemies do a hefty amount of damage to your party, with a lot of the standard strikes able to kill off your party members in 3 or 4 turns if you aren't careful. It really does force you to pay attention during battles, instead of just idly mashing the attack option until your foes are dead. Of course, you'll earn experience and money after every battle. Once one of the heroes levels up, you are taken to a separate screen to choose which of the dozen or so stats to increase. You have the choice to level up the heroes in a way that best matches your playstyle. Just keep in mind that it's not wise to increase the same stat twice in a row. That's because once you pick a stat, the next level up, that same stat will receive a slight decrease in the points that it will go up if you pick it a second time. Instead, you should alternate stats upon level ups to more efficiently make your heroes stronger. Also, don't just stick to one stat category. Each character may learn new abilities once their stats hit a certain threshold. For example, when X-Cop's HP reaches 400 and his MP reaches 200, he may learn a new ability. All available skills are shown in the menu, so you can look at these and plan out how you want to allocate skill points to ensure all abilities are learned. Speaking of skills, each party member also has their own field skill. When moving around in the world, your team will pick up momentum, eventually making them rocket around the field. This is done so that you can take running leaps over chasms and such. However, there are times where a more direct approach is needed to continue on. Axe Cop can use his trusty axe to destroy obstacles in the way. Dinosaur Cop can throw dynamite at flashing blockades to destroy them. Bat Warthog Man has a grappling hook. Sokarang can throw one of his socks to strike switches or grab items that are just out of reach. Ralph Wrinkles can sniff around for hidden items and switches. Each character definitely has their uses, and you'll be swapping party members frequently in the menu. However, note that you cannot use healing spells in the field, which is a bit of an interesting design choice. Ghost Cop and Ralph's health regeneration abilities can only be performed in battles. Outside of these, you must resort to items to heal up after a difficult encounter. Or if you're near a save point, you can teleport back to town using Axe Cop's pet dinosaur robot and sleep in the barracks. While you're here, you can also explore the town, visit the various shops, and perhaps purchase a bunch of tasty treats to ensure survival out in the wild. There is no equipment to find, so all of your money will be used primarily for soda, candy, and other restorative items. Although I really enjoyed the game, I do need to admit that I ran into a few glitches while playing on PS5. Most of them were pretty small, but I did run into a soft lock after being defeated by a giant Rhino Man. Axe Cop just showed his defeated pose, and I actually had to back out of the game and restart it to try again. At one point, the tag out option in the menu was a bit finicky, which wasn't a problem at the time since I only had one other party member to swap with. Finally, I had to fight the first encounter of Dr. Doodoo twice. After the first win, I tried to go back to the left to pick up an item that I missed, and somehow the game thought that I had just encountered Dr. Doodoo for the first time, and the entire conversation, as well as duplicates for all supporting parties, appeared on the screen. I then had to fight him for a second time, which really wasn't a big deal. It just needed to be noted. It should go without saying, but the visuals of the game are fantastic. Everything is appropriately retro looking, and there are some massive enemy sprites in the battles. In fact, the way that the combat works kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, with the large enemies and puny heroes. At least, that's the vibe I got. The combat is also fast-paced, with the skills only being a few frames long, allowing you to usually breeze through them. The town lives and breathes, with many small characters roaming the roads wanting to talk to Axe Cop. And when you enter a shop, you get a large portrait of the merchant. There's also a ton of color everywhere, especially when you enter the labyrinthian lab. Everything really does look amazing here. The music is pretty good as well, but strangely enough, there is no separate music for battles. Sure, bosses get their own thing, but the standard foes will be fought over the overworld theme for that level. It's a bit unusual for an RPG to have this, but it does work. Axe Cop is a wonderful game that is as funny as it is charming. You can definitely get the idea that a young child wrote the original plots for the game, and that the developers took this and ran with it. In fact, playing it kind of makes me want to check out the original webcomics to see just how crazy they are. If you are a fan of RPGs, this is a worthy game to add to your collection. Final score? 6 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.